I didn't necessarily know what to expect from the Pentagon Wars. I only decided to watch this because Kelsey Grammer is in it, and I'm currently watching every Kelsey Grammer film. However, it was listed as a comedy in various places, and it didn't sound like a comedy. And now that I've watched it, I can confirm that, in my opinion at least, it definitely isn't a comedy. Maybe there were jokes in this that I didn't get because I'm not that familiar with the subject matter, and I'll talk more about that in a moment. But I definitely wouldn't have listed this as a comedy. But if you have opinions that contradict that, please feel free to let me know. The film was released in 1998. And what I will say about it, much to the film's credit, not that the 90s were that long ago, but it feels so much more contemporary in terms of the quality of the film. There's just something about it that makes it feel much sharper. We have some brilliant camera angles. If I didn't know the date of this, I would have said it was released in the last 10 years. Definitely. In fact, all of the technical aspects of this film, very, very well done. It's directed by Richard Benjamin, with a screenplay by Jamie Malinowski and Martin Burke, and it stars Cary Elwes as Colonel James Burton and Kelsey Grammer as General Partridge. And I like the narrative structure here. We have Partridge rather up close to the camera, where he's answering interview questions, and some of those questions are surrounding the development of the Bradley fighting vehicle project, and the Bradley is a tank. And I had never heard of this before, but apparently, well, as we see with the film, there were a lot of things surrounding its development that are potentially quite interesting. And the film is about the development of the Bradley and Colonel Burton's involvement in this and various other things that were happening at the Pentagon at the time. And I know squat about any of these things. It's definitely not my area of expertise. It isn't a film that I would have watched if Kelsey Grammer wasn't in it. Did I enjoy it? I'd say after about halfway, I actually did start to enjoy it. Maybe that's partly because it took me a little while to fully understand what was going on and to get used to different terms and the roles of different characters, or maybe that's just when the narrative got interesting. I'd love to know when you started enjoying it, if you are already very knowledgeable about this particular topic. Did you like it from the beginning? Was it a little slow for you? But for me personally, I think it's probably because it took about half of the film for me to fully comprehend the situation. But that's not to say I didn't understand what was happening before that, but it did take me a little bit of time to feel like I was immersed in the narrative and like I was emotionally invested in what this character wanted or what this character had to say. So I would say I enjoyed it, but not as much as some other people might. And in fact, it's done very, very well for itself. IMDb gives it a total of 7.1 out of 10 across over 5,000 reviews and ratings, which is a brilliant rating. Anything 7 or above basically means it's a brilliant film, and it does seem to be very well received. It's not tremendously long either. A lot of war-based films seem to just go on forever. This one is about 1 hour and 40 minutes, which I personally think is not too long at all. And if I'm watching a film that I'm initially struggling to get to grips with because I don't know that much about the background, and the film still doesn't feel very long, I think that that's a pretty good thing. We have some really great performances. I can't comment at all on whether the actors are well cast in terms of how much they resemble the real people, such as Burton, but watching it from my perspective, I did enjoy the performances, and as I mentioned at the beginning, the technical aspects are brilliant, very, very well filmed. The use of sound is great. It's not too loud. I say that because a lot of war-based films were dealing with tanks and weaponry, and it's not tremendously loud. It didn't hurt my ears. So that's something that absolutely works in the film's favour as well. I have to say, even though I may not be the target audience in terms of the subject matter, I enjoyed it enough, and I really wasn't sure if that was going to be the case. That being said, I still didn't find it to be a comedy, and maybe one could argue that there are jokes in this that I just didn't understand, and if that's the case, that's absolutely fine, but it didn't feel like a comedy. It didn't feel like it was trying to be funny. So I don't know, if you watch this, I'd love to know what you think of it, if you find it to be particularly funny or not. I'm willing to accept that maybe I just don't have enough background knowledge to find certain aspects of this funny. But it didn't even feel like they were making jokes that went over my head. It just didn't feel like a comedy. Had I not read online that it was a comedy before watching it, I would have had it down as a drama, not a comedy. Maybe a slightly more light-hearted drama than a lot of others, but it still just, for me, doesn't really fit into that genre. But it could be my fault, maybe not the film's fault. Who knows? Do I recommend it? Yes, but it's difficult to know who I'm recommending it to. If, like me, you have no knowledge of the Bradley fighting vehicle, I'd say it's still absolutely fine to watch it. It is, after a while, pretty straightforward to understand what's going on. But as I said, it did take me a little while to get to that point. I don't know if I recommend it if you're particularly knowledgeable about the US Air Force or anything like that, because maybe it's not a good representative. I have no idea. But from my perspective, I would say I enjoyed it much more than I expected. It's not funny, in my opinion, but that might be my fault. I do like Kelsey Grammer a lot, so he was great in this, and Cary Elwes gave a great performance. Whether or not it's accurate to the character of Colonel Burton, I have no idea. So my opinion might not count for very much with this one, but if you are in a similar position to me and you're wanting to watch this for Kelsey Grammer or anybody else who's in it, and you're not really sure if you're going to be able to follow it or engage with it because of the subject matter, I'd say give it a go. I definitely enjoyed it a lot more than I was expecting. Didn't really find it funny, but I still thought the Pentagon Wars was pretty interesting.